Hello everyone, NEGTV is with you, and today you will watch my selection of the top 10 games of August. Hard West 2 PC. While working on this, the Hard West 2 video has already been released and proved to be very confident. In Steam, positive reviews, on Metacritic, pretty high ratings. At least the reaction to the sequel is even better than was on the original game in 2015. Responsible for the development at the same time, completely different team. Some reviewers consider this an advantage, others are a disadvantage. But the content is basically the same. Here the atmosphere of the Western is combined with elements fantasy. The gameplay is almost identical to the original, which, probably, it is possible to write down even in minuses. But there's a gripping plot, believable characters, cool picture, high-quality voice acting, and playable. All this is interesting. The first Hard West, I remember, burst into the gaming industry suddenly and unexpectedly, pleasantly surprised by the quality. The Poles were engaged in the development, and as if on purpose they decided to remind us of Call of Juarez. Hard West has literally become a baby of Call of Juarez and SCON. Moreover, many of those people who worked in the studio once worked in Techland on the famous series of shooters. Attentive fans could find a lot in common with the plot of the first parts of the Call of Juarez. And even the visual style in Hard West is essentially a continuation art ideas for Call of Juarez, Gunslinger. At the same time, a responsible approach to production sometimes creates the feeling that both the first Hard West and the second, it was not the Poles who did it, but the one responsible for SCON for Axis. And this feeling is pleasant. In general, the novelty can be recommended that lovers of tactical strategies, that fans of the Wild West in general and Call of Juarez in particular. Two Point Campus, the British team 2 Point Studios, founded by industry veterans who worked on Black and White and Fable, released the management strategy 2 Point Hospital. The old theme Hospital, released in '97, was used as a source of inspiration. One of the founders of 2 Point, Mark Webley, was just the head of theme hospital development, so the authors plunged into the hospital theme not by chance. The game became hugely successful, far exceeding the studio's expectations. Therefore, it soon became clear that our activities would continue, and continue with even greater enthusiasm. And now, this month, the second project is coming out, 2 Point Campus. Now we are offered to lead the university. Of course, it is necessary not only to rebuild campuses, but also to hire teachers of various subjects, as well as to take care of the hostel for students. The novelty looks identical to 2 Point Hospital, and the game experience is very similar here. First, we lay the foundation and build rooms, then we decorate, plant trees and put up sculptures. A little later, we will organize circles and classes, build a canteen, where there will be the most delicious lunches. The disciplines for learning here are much more diverse than in our reality. Students learn the basics of chivalry, gastronomy, dancing, magic, and other activities. 2 Point makes far from the deepest and most complex tycoons and focuses more on a mass audience that prefers to work less hard, but more to relax and have fun. Love, Money, Rock and Roll PC. On August 4th, Endless Summer from the Russian studio Soviet Games undoubtedly became a local hit and even a cultural phenomenon. Everyone who passed through this visual novel with erotic content will certainly remember it with great warmth and consider it literally something dear and deeply spiritual. For Endless Summer, an extremely unusual and unique setting was chosen, a pioneer camp in the USSR from the period of 80 to 87. However, only the setting was taken, and the world itself and its concept were changed. The result was a beautiful idealistic fairy tale, wrapped in the shell of a pioneer camp. And we played for a lonely young guy, Semyon, who lives off random freelance orders and burns his life in social networks and image boards. And it is noteworthy that Soviet Games is precisely a team of enthusiasts who united many years ago just on one of the image boards. The development was very difficult, there was no funding, of course, and in the end, despite the high popularity, the authors did not earn anything, the game is distributed on Steam for free without any microtransactions. In general, a real rare art. And what's great, Soviet Games continued its work. Of course, pulling out another project purely on enthusiasm is already a task on the verge of fantasy. So the team decided to raise money on Kickstarter. We are talking about a tiny amount of $34,000, but they helped to successfully get to the release, and the fact that the novelty, called Love, Money, Rock and Roll, is sold for 600 rubles, gives hope that now Soviet Games will turn into a full-fledged professional studio that will delight with releases in the future. In all this long historical digression, we didn't talk about the game itself at all, but I don't want to describe it too deeply. In short, the action takes place in an ordinary Japanese school, and the main character will have to make a difficult choice with whom to have an affair. Surrounding him are his childhood friend Himitsu, Kagome's class president, the granddaughter of the board of trustees of the school, Ellie, and Catherine's ex-girlfriend. Like Endless Summer, there are multiple endings, and some endings are very hard to get to. And that's all you need to know, because otherwise this game is about immersion, atmosphere, and personal emotional involvement in what is happening, and this can only be felt. Cult of the Lamb, another British studio, Massive Monster, decided to add some hell to this August. Cult of the Lamb is a roguelike where we play as a possessed lamb. He was sacrificed and offered to be resurrected by a chained demon called the One Who Waits. To be reborn, the sheep creates a cult in honor of his savior and begins to attract followers. In a procedurally generated world, it is necessary not only to look for supporters, but also to develop a base, collect resources, conduct mystical rituals, take care of the flock, strengthen the faith of followers with sermons, exclude infidels, fight against leaders of hostile sects, and fish. And the caught fish, by the way, can be cooked and exchanged for parts of the talisman that affects the gameplay. Each cultist has their own level of loyalty, which is increased in various ways, such as blessings and gifts. In battles, the sheep uses not only weapons, including swords, axes, and daggers, but also combat curses. For victories, tarot cards are issued with random bonuses and skills. There are about 20 bosses in total. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. Players loyal to the orthodox platform itself again had a reason for light gloating. The PlayStation has lost another exclusive, and PC gamers express their gratitude to consolers all over the planet for a quality beta test. Although, judging by the activity on the network, computer scientists just behave for the most part calmly and restrainedly, and PlayStation fans are just wildly dissatisfied, disappointed, and generally believe that Sony has deceived them. Although it would be time to understand that the console is not a status, but just one of the platforms. And in a good way, each player should have the opportunity to enjoy new products on what is personally more convenient for him. The struggle for exclusivity should be a thing of the past, and Sony understands this. The computer remaster of Spider-Man will differ from the original, for obvious reasons. With more advanced graphics, there are a lot of settings, even for weak PCs, and support for a wide variety of monitors, and DLSS anti-aliasing, and ray tracing for those who have the appropriate video card. The creation of Insomniac Games, we recall, saw the light within the PlayStation 5 a little less than 2 years ago. The game was not without the shortcomings of typical gaming blockbusters of our time. There is a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of the need to repeat the same actions 1,000 times, and for special connoisseurs there was a collection of costumes. It takes a really long time to unlock everything from Tony Stark's skin to the TV show tights. However, this is arguably the best superhero game ever made. Because in it you really feel like a hero who is forced to choose between saving people and personal life. This is an incredibly beautiful, elaborate, and coolly staged story. As if Insomniac did not do anything new, using the ideas of many other studios, but at the same time they created a game that is hard not to fall in love with. And now we offer a little distraction from the games of August and take a breath. Rollerdrome PC. The Roll7 studio has been operating in Britain for 14 years. First of all, she is known for the OlliOlli arcade series. Just in February of this year, she shipped OlliOlli World, a fun, colorful and even some kind of festive game where we enjoy skating and have fun in tons of different ways. But only 6 months have passed and Roll 7 is ready to offer another novelty. And in this case, not related to an existing franchise. Rollerdrome. However, the style, similar to the animated series Adventure Time, is also available here. But the genre is different. It is a mixture of a sports arcade and an action movie. The action takes place in 2030 in a world where everything is not so good. Corporations rule states, there is no internet, there is no special entertainment either. But the attention of the public is called upon to divert deadly duels on roller skates, just a rollerdrome. The main character of the game is a budding athlete named Kara Hassan. She is able to quickly and efficiently move around the arena, bypassing the dangers in the form of lasers, missiles, and automatic bursts. To win such a race, you need to defeat all the enemies and demonstrate the proper amount of convincing acrobatic pirouettes to please the watching crowd. With direct participation in skirmishes, the heroine deliberately slows down time for better aiming. As for tricks, everything is interesting here. The more complex and longer they are, the more Kara gets cartridges. And the latter here regularly end up in skirmishes with enemies. Finally, the arenas themselves at the Rollerdrome are spacious skate parks with all the tricks installed. The heroine has to fight not only with the enemies in the arena itself, but also dodge the shots of snipers, robots, and armored soldiers. Just like that, firing at all enemies from one weapon will not work. You need an approach and the right selection of supplies. Somewhere a pistol will do, and against well-armored targets with shields, you will have to use a grenade launcher. Again, you also need to eliminate opponents beautifully and quickly, because in this case a special score multiplier grows. It directly affects the final score and position in the leaderboard. Platforms, PlayStation of 2 generations, and computers. Thymesia. And this game has already been made in Taiwan. This is the debut project of the Overborder studio. And at the same time, a new imitator of Dark Souls. More precisely, not even Dark Souls, but Bloodborne. Here we have the role of the mysterious Corvus. We have to find ourselves in a kingdom where the plague is rampant, and find the causes of the disaster. A key feature of the project is a carefully thought-out system of disease weapons. Alchemy used to be the magic cure for all diseases in the kingdom, but at some point the government decides to limit the use of magic, which, in particular, led to disastrous consequences. In principle, you should not expect anything breakthrough. It was already clear from the demo version that this is a typical Asian game. China and Taiwan are famous for their cheap, affordable products. Here is Thymesia, a cheap analog of Bloodborne. We say this without a negative connotation, it's just that much less money has been spent on production. But if it seemed to you that Elden Ring was not enough, but to dodge and roll death as you like, then Thymesia is able to keep you occupied. Moreover, the words death and one here also necessarily work together. You will have to die more often than fight. But the desire to defeat the next boss by memorizing his demeanor is definitely stronger than the fear of death. Soul Hackers 2. On the 26th, Atlus intends to release a new game in the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. To be precise, we have before us a direct continuation of the 97-year project with the long-named Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summer Soul Hackers from the Sega Saturn console. Later, Atlus ported their creation to the first PlayStation, and a decade and a half later, to the portable Nintendo 3DS. The action takes place in the middle of the 21st century, where some intelligent being of data and information named Ion is watching the world. When he discovers that the fate of the world is in danger, he sends 2 agents, autonomous fragments and physical manifestations of the mind of Ion named Ringo and Fig, to Earth to find and protect 2 people who are needed to save the world. However, the shocking truth is that these people are already dead. Ringo, however, is practically a newborn, since Ion created her very recently. Since Ringo is a part of it, she can use many of the abilities of this supreme being, although not to the same extent. Ordinary people and their society fascinate and captivate her, as well as the older sister with the name Fig, which is ridiculous for the Russian ear. Fig will support Ringo and the rest of Soul Hacker 2's ever-growing cast of characters from behind the scenes. Using an ability inherited from Ion called Soul Hack, Ringo can tap into the memories of the dead to evoke their regrets and bring them back to life. She uses this handy trick to revive a guy named Arrow, one of the dead targets whose death plays a key role in the beginning of the looming apocalypse. Arrow is a devil summoner capable of harnessing their power, representing the Yatagarasu summoner faction. He wears black and crimson casual clothes and uses a trusty pistol in combat. Arrow has a strict moral code, and even though that he is usually quiet and calm, at times he can be quite short-tempered. In general, connoisseurs of Shin Megami Tensei expect a masterpiece with an interesting plot, and everyone who is not in the know will simply call Soul Hackers 2 another anime nonsense. And they will be mistaken. Shin Megami Tensei, despite the seemingly strange setting, is an adult series of games that raises complex topics and has such depth that many European projects never dreamed of. If you don't know where you can pre-order the disc console edition, we recommend videoigr.net. You will receive the goods as quickly as possible and will certainly be satisfied with the quality of service. There are versions for both Xbox and PlayStation of both generations. Direct link is in the description below the video. Call of the Wild, the Angler. Finally, on the last day of the month, on the 31st, the Expansive World Studio will please us with another simulator that will allow everyone who loves nature with all its advantages and disadvantages to be outdoors, but only in their own room. In this case, we are talking about fishing. Let mosquitoes and leeches bite the virtual protagonist. You and I are busy people and intend to get only the best from catching fish. The world here is open. There are many rivers, streams, and ponds. You can explore the territory by boat, SUV, or on foot. The fishing system is intuitive, tackle and equipment for all occasions. The new Call of the Wild looks really impressive. The authors, in turn, stir up interest by stating that their creation will change our understanding of the fishing simulator genre itself, so everything will be cool and believable here. Whether they keep their promise, we'll find out. Saints Row. Studio Volition, after the release in 2013 of the very popular extravagant action game Saints Row 4, was, it seems, in a creative crisis. Not understanding how to develop the idea of a GTA-like game betting on the all-consuming freedom of madness, she decided to make a superhero offshoot of Agents of Mayhem. But the game failed so much that the studio even had to restart the entire franchise. Though it might have happened anyway. So, Saints Row comes out without numbers in the subtitle. Here we have a new city, characters, and setting. The plot focuses on 4 characters who united and decided to create their own criminal group. However, a lot of explosions, delirium and screams are available. Everything is as it should be in the later parts of the Saints Row series. True, fans of the project are persistently criticized, being dissatisfied with the new composition of the once beloved gang, and the visual style, and other aspects. They are also unhappy with the very fact of the restart. Everyone wants Saints Row 5, and not some kind of rethinking. But the studio is relentless. It is sure that starting from scratch would be much better. Who is right? We will find out after August 23rd. There is a chance that the franchise will not survive this release.